Hello, I'm Gail Ellis and welcome to PEPELT, Picturebooks in European Primary English Language Teaching. This month we're celebrating the life and work of Judith Kerr, who died earlier this year in May at the age of 95. I'm going to present perhaps one of her lesser known later picture books, My Henry, published by HarperCollins. I have the hardback version, which was published in 2011, and the paperback version was published the following year, but as you can see, it has a different cover. We can use the front cover to introduce the two main characters, and we could ask children to say who they think they are, what their relationship is to each other, how they feel about each other, and how old they are, and what they think the story might be about. On the back cover, we see the old lady who has been cleaning a photo frame and looking at it tenderly. And then we can read the text here for the children to check their hypotheses. My Henry died and went to heaven, but now he's got his wings. They let him out from 4 to 7, and we do all sorts of things. I wonder what kind of things they do. And we can ask children if they have grandparents and where their grandparents live. Do their grandparents live independently? Do they live with other family members? Or do they live in a home for elderly people? It's a hardback version, so it's got a dust jacket, and the inside flap gives us more information about the story. Married couples are used to little outings together. Henry's wife can see no reason why they should stop just because one of them has died. And on the back flap, we have some biographical information about Judith Kerr, and we learn that she met her husband at the BBC, Thomas Nigel Neal, and that they married in 1954, and they remained married until his death in 2006. And My Henry is dedicated to her husband, for Tom, although she does explain in an interview that this story isn't about Tom and me, it's about anyone who's ever been happily married. And she also explains in another interview for Country Life magazine in 2019 that My Henry is her favourite of her own books. So before the dedication page, we have a prologue illustration, which is the same illustration that we saw on the back cover. And then on the title page, we now see the old lady showing the photo to her cat. So My Henry is a picture book about death, bereavement, and loss. But it's also about love and companionship, and about how people who we love can live on in our memories. And in an interview on YouTube, which we'll share the link with you, towards the end of this interview, she talks about My Henry, and she says it's about a widow, and quite jolly, funny, I think. And then she reads the first 2 pages. Here she is, the old lady sitting in her chair. I wonder where she lives. They think I'm sitting in this chair, just waiting for my tea. In fact, I'm flying through the air with Henry holding me. And then the text from the back cover is repeated. My Henry died and went to heaven, but now he's got his wings. They let him out from 4 to 7. So they have 3 hours together each afternoon, and we do all sorts of things. And here we have an angel waving goodbye. So it's, so she goes on to say, yes, so it's quite funny for children, I hope, well, even for grown-ups. And it is a picture book that can be enjoyed by all generations, both young and old. But in My Henry, it's the child who enters the imaginative world of the adult. In this case, the imaginative world of a widow who goes off on adventures with her, fantasy adventures with her dead husband. But it does have a celebratory feel about it. And as she says, it is quite jolly. She writes about a very serious and sad subject in a very positive and amusing way. And even the colours are light, warm, pastel-y colours. They're not the colours we'd usually associate with death. Here she is riding on a dinosaur. And here is one of my favourite double spreads. And sometimes we have jungle feasts high up among the treetops with heavenly treats for all the beasts and self-fulfilling teapots. What wonderful rhyme. Feasts and beasts and treetops and teapots. And here we have a picture, illustration of a tiger drinking from a teapot, reminiscent of the tiger who came to tea, and a cat here reminiscent of the Mog stories, and various other animals that she has no doubt observed in London Zoo. So this is not the first time, though, that Judith Kerr addresses the subject matter of death in her picture books. In Goodbye Mog, that was published in 2002, we say farewell to Mog. And the story begins, Mog was tired. She was dead tired. Mog thought, I want to sleep forever, and so she did. And I think we can see similarities too with the covers. Mog flies up and up and up right into the sun. So death and bereavement may seem like rather unconventional subject matter to address with children in the primary English language teaching classroom, but this is exactly one of the aims of PEPELT. We aim to address themes that we don't always find in our mainstream ELT course materials. And my Henry addresses loss and death as well as old age. We've seen that the story is told in the first person, narrated in the first person from the widow's perspective. Here she is now having a little nap in her chair. They think I'm having 40 winks, but little do they know that I am chatting with the Sphinx, who's asked us out for Sunday drinks with several friends in tow. Again, that wonderful rhyming words, 40 winks, Sphinx, Sunday drinks. And this rhyming verse will help children make predictions. It'll also help them develop phonological awareness. And as we can see, the text synchronizes with the illustrations, which will support children's understanding. Now, linguistically, there is a great deal that can be done with the vocabulary. The children can be asked to make a collection of the action verbs and the rhyming words, and then look at the phoneme and grapheme correspondences. But moving beyond core linguistic learning goals, My Henry can be used to develop emotional literacy, and in particular, in this case, developing empathy and understanding the feelings of someone who has lost someone very close to them. It's a great book to deal with the sadness of losing someone, and children can be asked to think how this lady is feeling. It can also be used to develop cultural literacy, as there are several references to British life. We've got tea and teapots, and we've got cake and 40 winks and Sunday drinks, and we have a lovely cityscape here on this illustration at the bottom here, cityscape, the skyline of London buildings. And despite the fact that they have amazing adventures swimming with mermaids and water skiing with dolphins, it's actually the everyday things that they really prefer. But sometimes we prefer to give the world a miss because we picture how we used to live and think how nice it was. And here we've got illustrations of events, important events and everyday events in their lives, getting married, their children when they were young, gardening together, and here they are sitting together watching television. So it can also be used then to develop cultural literacy. And I love the way that in every illustration, she's always wearing her slippers, even here where she's climbing Mount Everest, and George is always wearing his yellow tie. So the story ends on a humorous note. See you tomorrow afternoon. I'll be waiting here. Perhaps we'll picnic on the moon. And a humorous touch here with the angel checking her watch. It's 7 o'clock. It's time for you to come back. So the final page. Two sugars. Thank you, dear. So now we can ask the children where they think the lady lives, and it is probably a home for old people, and this is a member of the staff serving her cup of tea. So again, we can ask the children to make these comparisons. What about old people in the country where you live? Where do they live? Who do they live with? So My Henry addresses the subject of old age and dying, but in a very joyful and positive way. And it finishes on a positive note, you know, with her looking forward to what she's going to her fantasy adventures with Henry the next day. So thank you, Judith Kerr, for your wonderful picture books and contribution to children's literature throughout your career. I will see you in December again, and in the meantime, we look forward to hearing from Tasha and Annetta. Bye-bye.